I know some will call me selfish. Some will say it's just a dress. Why are you still clinging to it?
But some pain is not measured in money or time. It's measured in memory, in the things we lost too soon.
That wedding dress, my daughter chose it. She held it like a dream. She tried it on, trembling with joy, then turned to me in the fitting room and asked, "Mom, do I look beautiful?" I smiled, but my eyes welled up. Because she was too happy, because I had never seen her eyes shine like that. And then she died, just weeks later. The dress arrived at our home, a pristine white box. I opened it, alone, no laughter, only silence. I laid my hand on the sheer fabric, so delicate it hurt. Every time I opened the closet, it's still there, white, still, like a memory frozen in time. I never wore it, no one did, because to me, it's not just a dress. It's the only piece of my daughter I have left. And in every fold, every stitch, there is love, there are tears, and there are wounds that never healed. My name is Grace. I'm 55 years old. I'm the mother of 2 daughters, 2 pieces of my soul I once believed I could hold on to forever. One is gone, forever. The other is preparing to step into the threshold of happiness. Both were once little girls who clung to me. One used to hold my hand on the way to school. One used to stay up with me through sleepless nights after my divorce. One called me her best friend. The other called me her anchor after every failed test. But now, between the 2 of them, lies not just time or bloodline, but a white wedding dress, hanging silently in the closet for years, never worn. That dress once belonged to Emily, my first daughter. She chose it with joy in her eyes, dreaming of her perfect wedding. I still remember that day, a light drizzle outside. She stepped out of the fitting room, spun slowly. The dress flared like a blooming flower. She asked, "Mom, what do you think?" I nodded, but deep inside, something tightened in my chest, as if my heart whispered a warning I didn't understand. And then, fate, cruel as it is, took her away, just weeks later. Since then, the dress has become something more. It's memory, it's unfinished love, it's grief, frozen in each fold. Now, Sophie, my younger daughter from my second marriage, is preparing for her own wedding. She's cheerful, excited, glowing with dreams. And one day, she looked at me and asked with such innocence, "Mom, can I wear that dress? The one Emily chose? It's so beautiful, and you've kept it like new." Her words pierced me, because how could I explain that sometimes it's not hate that makes you hold something back? It's love. So deep, it scares you to let go. I don't resent her. On the contrary, I love her deeply. But I also carry a grief I never dared to heal. And so, between me and her, between present and past, a battle began. No shouting, no accusations, just a long silence between 2 hearts quietly bleeding. That was when I realized, sometimes what hurts the most isn't the memory itself. It's not knowing what to do with it. Years passed. The house stayed the same. Dinner was always served. But I knew there was still an empty seat no one could fill. Time doesn't erase grief. It only teaches you how to hide it better. I still cleaned the house, still went to the market, still smiled, but Every night I looked toward the closet where the wedding dress hung quietly in its silk garment bag. I never opened it, not because I forgot, but because I remembered too much. Sophie, my stepdaughter, grew up around me, always careful, always gentle. She knew she came after. I loved her, truly, but I also knew that in some moments, without realizing, I hurt her. Not through words, but through silence. She wasn't Emily, but she had the same eyes, the kind that believed the world was still good. She had a smile that could lift the weight off my chest on days I thought I had nothing left to give. When Sophie told me she was engaged, I was genuinely happy, not just politely. I cried, I hugged her, and whispered, "You deserve a love that stays." Then one afternoon, while I was folding laundry in the living room, she walked in. She didn't smile like usual, just sat beside me quietly. "Mom," she said, "I want to ask you something, but you don't have to answer now." I turned to her. She took a breath, then gently said, "I want to wear Emily's wedding dress." That sentence, it was like someone had cracked open a door I had bolted shut for years. I couldn't speak, couldn't react. I just stared at her. Her eyes were full of hope, not envy, not competition, just longing, a quiet request for connection with the sister she never got to know. "I know you've kept it carefully," she added. "I saw it once, just a glimpse. It's beautiful. And if she can't wear it, maybe I could, for both of us." I swallowed hard. Every fiber in me wanted to say no, to scream. It was Emily's. But I couldn't. She didn't know. How could she? That dress wasn't just a dress. It was the last physical thread tying me to Emily. It was the illusion that maybe, just maybe, she was still near. It was my only proof that she had once dreamed. I turned away, tears filling my eyes. And for the first time, I realized this grief was no longer just mine to carry. I lost control of myself. The word flew from my mouth before I could stop it. "No!" Short, sharp, cold as ice. Not a second of hesitation. Sophie froze. Her eyes widened, blinking hard. She didn't say anything at first. Was she confused? Hurt? Or simply used to it? Then her lips tightened. Her face darkened, like a storm gathering behind her eyes. "Is it because I'm not your biological daughter, Mom?" My heart clenched. I hadn't expected her to say it so plainly. I shook my head, instinctively. "No, it's not that." She gave a hollow laugh. Not angry, just tired. "Or is it because you loved Emily more?" I shot up from the chair like I'd been shocked. "That's not true, Sophie. Please, listen to me." "Then what is it?" she snapped, voice rising. "She didn't wear the dress. She's gone, Mom. She's not coming back. Why can't I wear it? What are you still saving it for?" I backed away. That question felt like a slap across the face. I had no answer. I tried to speak, but my throat locked up, strangled by emotion. Sophie stood her ground. Her eyes shimmered with tears, but her voice stayed calm. "I know. I've never been Emily. I've never replaced her. I'm not stupid. But I've also never been allowed to be just me, not with you." I opened my mouth to deny it, but the words fell apart before they formed. "I've never been enough, have I, Mom?" she whispered. Not in anger, not in spite, just sorrow, raw, unfiltered. Then she turned away, walking up the stairs. Each step echoed like a slow, deliberate wound through the house. No screaming, no door slamming, just a silence loud enough to split me open. I collapsed back onto the chair, empty, defeated. Me, a mother who thought she knew love, had just been called out by the child I raised. And she was right. I had loved Emily so much that I forgot Sophie needed love too, not as a replacement, not as a shadow, but as herself. And I had failed. I was afraid of forgetting, afraid of betrayal, afraid that if I let Sophie wear the dress, Emily would disappear all over again. I kept the dress, like a preserved relic of a body I couldn't bury. But now, I realized I wasn't protecting Emily's memory. I was punishing myself with it, and in the process, I was hurting the one person still here. That night, I didn't sleep. I paced the room like a ghost. No lights on, just moonlight pouring through the window. Cold and still, like everything was holding its breath. Then, something pulled me toward the closet. How long had it been? I couldn't remember the last time I'd opened it. My hands trembled as I reached for the handle. The door creaked open, slowly, and there it was. The wedding dress. Still white, still soft, just like the day it arrived. No dust, no wrinkles, as if time itself had stood still inside that fabric cover. I peeled away the protective cloth. The soft tulle draped like water through my fingers. But I wasn't looking at a dress. I was seeing Emily, spinning in that bridal shop, beaming ear to ear. I saw her hands grazing the fabric, whispering, "Mom, I want this one." And I saw Sophie, crying in the dark, longing for love I had never fully given her. I broke down, not quietly, not gracefully. Tears fell like they had been waiting for years, because for the first time, I understood. I had kept that dress like I was keeping a piece of Emily's body. I had turned it into a coffin, not to honor her, but to hold her. I was terrified that if someone else wore it, if it left my hands, Emily would vanish again, disappear into nothingness, as if she never was. I had told myself I was protecting her memory, but the truth was, I had imprisoned it. Imprisoned Emily. Imprisoned myself in the role of a grieving mother who never let go. And something else became clear to me. If I kept holding on to the dress, I would lose Sophie. Not because she needed the dress, but because she needed to be seen. Not as a substitute, not as a shadow, but as a daughter. Fully, truly, just like Emily once was. I wouldn't lose both of my girls to a mistake I had the power to change. I sat down, the dress resting across my lap, and for the first time, I didn't cradle it like a relic. I held it like a gift, something not to mourn, but to give, not a symbol of death anymore, but the one miracle I still had to offer. A thread of healing, a chance to love again, and finally, love right. I hadn't planned it. I didn't even think I'd go through with it. But that morning, as I woke to a cold gray sky, I knew. It was time. I slid open the closet door. The wedding dress was still there, draped in a soft white velvet cover, hanging straight like a soul that had never moved on. My hand trembled as I touched the fabric. Each fingertip remembered the first time Emily lifted it from the hanger, spinning once under the golden fitting room light, her smile so bright it could have swallowed the world whole. I put on my old wool coat, wrapped the navy purple scarf Emily once gave me, and gently carried the dress to the car. Each step felt like a walk back through time. The boutique sat nestled on an old side street. The same one where years ago, Emily and I stepped through that wooden door in search of the dream dress. The weathered sign was still there, chipped white lettering reading Bridal Dreams, Esther 1983. I stepped inside. The bell above the door chimed, a sound so familiar it made my heart seize. The scent of dried lavender still lingered in the air. Pure white dresses hung silently on the walls, like ghosts waiting to be named. I felt as if I had entered a place outside of time, where past and present collided, and memory cracked open like glass. I didn't even have to speak. She stepped out from behind the curtain, the shop owner, older now, hair fully silver, her steps slower. But her eyes, those eyes, were the same ones that once looked at Emily with the soft affection of someone witnessing a young woman becoming a bride in her mother's dreams. "Grace?" she said slowly, like she wasn't sure it was really me. I nodded, throat tight. "It's me." Her eyes dropped to the box I carried. She nodded slightly, as if she already knew why I had come. No explanation needed. No long stories. She gestured for me to sit on the velvet chair near the glass case. I opened the box, gently lifting the dress, laying it out on the table like placing something sacred. The room fell into a silence deeper than any I'd ever known. "You kept it? All these years?" she asked. "I didn't just keep the dress," I replied. "I kept everything that never had the chance to be. Words that went unsaid, moments we never lived out." She didn't respond. Instead, she softly ran her hand over the gown, as if touching Emily herself, or more requires, the memory of her. I watched her hand tremble over each row of lace, every pearl button, every layer of chiffon Emily had chosen with the whole of her young heart. As the shopkeeper's hand reached the back of the dress, where tiny hand-sewn buttons lined the spine, she suddenly paused. "Wait here a moment," she said softly, disappearing into the back room. I sat in silence, expecting her to return with fabric swatches or alteration suggestions, but minutes later, she emerged, not with cloth, but with an envelope, yellowed, worn, its corners frayed by time. Emily, she asked me to keep this," the woman said. "She said, if anything ever happened and her mother came back, I should give it to you." My hands barely moved, but when I took it and saw my name written in that unmistakable curve of my daughter's handwriting, I broke down. There was no doubt, no accident. Emily had left something, a message, a wish, from the other side. I opened the letter, my fingers trembling. Inside, written in neat loops, "Dear Mom, if I don't get to wear this dress, please don't let it sleep forever in the closet. Don't hold on to it like it's me. Because I'm not in the dress, Mom. I'm in your heart. And everything you do with love. I trust you'll know who it should belong to next. I trust you." The final line was bold, underlined. This dress is meant to continue living, not to be mourned. I don't remember how long I sat there after reading the letter, only that my hands shook and tears fell onto the page, blurring the final few words. The world around me seemed suspended. I wasn't in a bridal boutique anymore. I was inside a memory, the memory of a girl who had lived with me for 25 years, now finding a way to speak from somewhere no one returns from. The shopkeeper quietly poured a cup of tea. Jasmine. The aroma floated gently through the room, warming my palms, chilling my heart. "Emily was remarkable," she said. "I remember the first time she came in here. She knew exactly what she wanted. The dress had to be light, had to have lace. Classic, but with a modern twist. And it had to be comfortable enough to dance in all night. I chuckled, wiping tears. She never did anything halfway. We sat there, two women from different lifetimes, quietly sharing the same tender ache. Some losses don't need to be explained. They just need to be held, to be breathed through, to be allowed. I'm not sure what made me speak, but I heard myself say, I want to alter the dress, not to erase Emily, but so Sophie can wear it and still feel like she's being embraced by her sister. Experience. The shopkeeper stared at me for a long moment. No words, no smile, just a quiet gaze, like she was trying to see if I was truly ready to let go. Then she nodded. All right, but I won't do it alone. I blinked. She smiled. I'll call Maria. One of my former students. She's young, talented, understands Sophie's generation, but I'll stay too, to make sure Emily stays in every stitch. 2 days later, we returned. This time, it was me, the shopkeeper, and Maria, a woman in her 30s, short hair, sharp eyes, always holding measuring tape and tailor's chalk. When Maria carefully laid the dress out on the cutting table, I saw something solemn pass over her face. Like she knew she was touching something with a soul. We're not altering a dress, Maria said. We're transforming it. And so began the days of change, not just through seams and stitches, but through memory and meaning. We kept the bodice intact, Emily's favorite part, with the soft V-neck and delicate lace sleeves. But the skirt was softened, layered differently, flowing more gently to match Sophie's shape. A pale blue sash was sewn at the waist, the favorite color of both my daughters. Maria even added tiny crystal beads along the hem, like scattered stars, catching light as they moved. I don't know why, but looking at the new dress, I felt Emily smile. Maria placed the newly transformed dress onto the mannequin. The room fell silent, like a chapel. No one spoke for several minutes. We simply looked. The dress now felt both strange and familiar, like an old melody rearranged. The tune was still there, but a new rhythm had been added, meant for the one walking forward. I slowly walked around the mannequin, my hand grazing the fabric. It felt like touching both Emily and Sophie at once. One was memory, one was presence. They weren't in conflict. They were intertwined in every seam, every pleat. The shopkeeper whispered, "We didn't alter this dress. We healed it." I didn't answer. My eyes said it for me. Maria took out a small box. "This is a pearl I kept from the first dress I ever made in design school," she said. "I didn't know why I held on to it, but now I do. It belongs to this dress." She stitched the pearl at the waist, where the two layers of pale blue silk met. When sunlight hit it, it shimmered softly, like the glow of late afternoon, gentle yet undeniable. I looked at the dress, then at the two women before me, one a guardian of memory, the other a giver of new breath, and I understood. The dress was no longer a vessel of grief. It had become a continuation of love. I brought the dress home in a new box, not the original white one, but a handcrafted wooden case with both my daughters' names engraved in delicate cursive, Emily and Sophie. I didn't turn on the radio during the drive. I didn't speak. I just listened to the tires hum and the steady, weighted beat of my heart. It wasn't pain anymore. It was a memory learning how to release itself. I arrived just as the sun dipped below the horizon. The house was quiet. Sophie was in her room, probably still upset. I knew she was hurting, and I was too. I stood outside Sophie's door for what felt like an entire season. My hand rose and fell again and again, hovering just inches from the wood, as if it was more than a door. as if it were a wall between two lifetimes I wasn't sure how to cross. The hallway was quiet, too quiet. Only the hum of the refrigerator from downstairs, the distant ticking of the old clock on the wall behind me, and that strange, unfamiliar rhythm, my own heartbeat, unsure whether it was racing or breaking. From behind the door, I could hear her, not sobbing, but breathing in that way people do when they're swallowing something too large for words. The kind of breathing that happens when your chest is tight and your throat is tired from holding back the ache. I hadn't rehearsed what I was going to say, but somehow my body had. Raise the hand, pull it back, raise it again. It was absurd, this dance of hesitation. I was her mother. I had once rocked her to sleep, made silly pancakes shaped like stars, bandaged skinned knees, sat through piano recitals and heartbreaks, and one disastrous Halloween where she wanted to be a glamorous skeleton. And yet now, I couldn't even knock, because this wasn't about parenting. This was about reckoning. With all the things I'd never said, with all the love I'd misdirected, mismeasured, misrepresented, with the ghost of a daughter I still couldn't let go of, and the very real daughter who still waited on the other side of the silence. I took a breath, held it, let it go. Then knocked. 3 soft taps, one after the other. I waited. Nothing. I turned the handle and stepped in anyway. Not out of confidence, but because if I didn't move now, I'd crumble. The room was dim, not dark, but that kind of soft gloom that lives as spaces where someone has been crying for a long time. Light filtered in through the drawn curtains, catching on dust motes like stars floating in a galaxy of sorrow. And there she was, Sophie, sitting on the floor, back against the far wall, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tightly around herself like she was trying to hold together what was left. She didn't look up right away. She was staring at the carpet, blankly. The kind of stare that isn't really seeing anything, just surviving. I stood there for a moment, unsure if I should speak first, but words felt too thin, too clumsy for what this moment needed. So instead I walked slowly across the room, carrying the box in both arms. It was wrapped in soft ivory cloth with a delicate satin ribbon, not from any store, but from my own drawer. Something told me it had to feel personal. When I reached the bed, I knelt down and placed the box carefully on top of the comforter, not like I was delivering something, but like I was laying something to rest. Gently, reverently, like you might lay down a sleeping child afraid to wake the memory. Then I reached into my sweater pocket, pulled out the small envelope the dressmaker had given me, the one Emily had left behind. I set it beside the box. Still, Sophie hadn't moved. Her shoulders were trembling a little now, like she was trying not to make a sound, as if the weight of the past and the silence between us had finally become too much to hold. I didn't fill the space with explanations. No grand speeches. Just 3 words. It's yours now. Her eyes lifted slowly, still red, still tired, but there was something else now. Not confusion, not even surprise, just a quiet, aching question behind them. She didn't touch the dress, didn't rush toward the box. She didn't even say thank you. She just looked at me, and I understood. She needed something more than the dress, more than the gesture. She needed my truth, not the facts, not the timeline of what happened or how I kept the dress all these years. She needed to know why. Why I had said no. Why I had held on so tightly. Why it had taken me this long to let go. And for once in my life, I didn't hide behind explanations. I sat down on the edge of the bed facing her. And I looked her in the eye, not as her mother, not as a woman guarding memories, but as a human being who had failed and wanted to do better. My voice cracked before the first word even came.
I'm sorry.
She blinked, stunned.
I'm sorry.
I let you live under your sister's shadow, I said. Even if I never meant to. I did. I'm sorry I made you guess whether you mattered to me. I'm sorry my silence spoke louder than love ever should have. I held on to that dress, I continued, because I thought if I let it go, I would lose Emily all over again. My voice trembled, but I kept going. I believe the dress was all I had left of her, something physical, something real, something untouched by death or time. But I was wrong. I placed my hand over my chest. She's not in the dress. She's in me. In the way I still wake up and whisper her name. In the way I pause when I walk past the photo on the stairs. In the ache and the love. And yes, even in the fear. I looked back at Sophie. She's also in you. In the way you laugh. In how stubborn you are when you want something. In your kindness, the kind that looks quiet but carries weight. Sophie was crying now, quietly, freely. But I failed to see that, I whispered, because I was too busy protecting what I lost, to cherish what I still had. I never had to choose between you two, I said softly. That was the lie I told myself, that loving one meant betraying the other. I paused, breathing through the ache that swelled in my throat. But the truth is, I didn't love you less because you weren't born of my blood. I was just terrified. Sophie looked at me, eyes wide with something between shock and recognition. Terrified of losing again. Terrified that if I opened my heart too much, I'd lose you too. So I held back. I told myself it was to protect you, to protect me, but it wasn't protection. It was fear. I reached for her hand, slowly. I see that now. And I see you. Not as the second daughter, not as someone trying to fit into Emily's space, but as Sophie, my Sophie, the girl who stayed, the girl who waited for me to see her. I took another breath. This time I didn't cry. This time I spoke clearly, firmly, not out of guilt, not out of obligation, but out of love, the kind that comes too late, but lands just in time. Sophie, I said, if you still want to wear this dress, I want to be the one to put it on you. Her breath caught. I want to zip it up, tie the ribbon, adjust the lace, wipe the happy tears from your cheeks because I missed doing that with Emily and I don't want to miss it again. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her lips just trembled. And then she broke, not loudly, just completely. Her tears came down, not of anger, not of sadness, but of finally being seen. She rushed into my arms, burying her face in my shoulder. Her body trembled like she was releasing years of wanting, years of wondering, and years of waiting. We stayed in that embrace longer than I expected. Maybe longer than either of us had ever allowed before. It wasn't dramatic, no music, no speeches, just quiet. Just breath and tears and the weight of years melting into warmth. Eventually we pulled apart, not out of awkwardness, but because something had shifted. Something unspoken, sacred. Sophie wiped her face, her fingers trembling slightly. I picked up the box and placed it gently in her hands. She didn't open it right away. She just held it, like it was a heart still beating. "Let's try it on," I said, softly. She nodded. The next morning, I called a seamstress I trusted. Someone gentle, someone who understood loss. We set up a small space in the living room with mirrors and soft lighting. And then I helped Sophie step into the dress. As I adjusted the sleeves and tied the ribbon in the back, I remembered doing this once before. For Emily. Only that time we were giggling, daydreaming. This time, the air was still, holy. When Sophie turned around to face the mirror, I saw it. She wasn't trying to be Emily. She was Sophie. But in that reflection, I saw them both. When she turned to face me fully, I forgot how to breathe. It wasn't because the dress fit perfectly, though it did. It wasn't because she looked beautiful, though she did. It was because, for the first time, I didn't see death in that dress. I saw life. I saw a future. Not frozen memories, but forward motion. She smiled. Not a forced smile, not a polite one. A full, radiant, trembling smile. The kind a child gives when they finally know they are loved for who they are. "You look stunning," I whispered, voice breaking again. She stepped closer, and just like that, it was no longer Emily's dress. It was Sophie's, not because it had changed, but because I had. Because I finally let go of holding one daughter by holding on to the other. On Sophie's wedding day, I woke up before the sun touched the sky. There was no alarm, no voice calling me, just something soft inside my chest that said, "Today is the day you finally let go." And hold on at the same time. I slipped out of bed quietly. The house still slept. Outside, birds were just beginning to sing their slow morning song. Inside, there was stillness. Not the kind that aches, but the kind that waits. The dress hung on the far end of the room. For years it had hung in silence, drenched in memory, a ghost in cloth, a symbol of what never was. But today, it looked different. It looked ready. I walked toward it, careful with every step, like approaching someone holy. I ran my fingers along the lace, and I realized something. It hadn't changed. I had. Years ago, I couldn't look at this dress without crying, couldn't imagine it being touched, let alone worn by anyone but Emily. But now, it felt like Emily herself had woven peace into every thread. Not erasing the past, but giving it permission to move. Sophie came into the room a few minutes later. She didn't speak at first, neither did I. We just looked at each other. And in that quiet, I saw it. She wasn't nervous. She was grounded, calm, present. And I was too. I picked up the dress and turned to her, still, no words. Just a shared understanding between mother and daughter. The kind that doesn't need language anymore. I helped her into the dress. Every motion was slow, careful. I tied the ribbon at the back, smoothed the sleeves, stepped back, and for a moment I just looked. She didn't look like Emily. She didn't have to, because in that moment she wasn't living in her shadow. She was standing in her own light. Tears came to my eyes, but I didn't cry, not yet. "I hope you feel beautiful," I finally whispered. She didn't answer. She smiled. But it wasn't the smile of someone trying to impress. It was the smile of someone who had finally been seen. I helped her with her shoes. She laughed softly when I fumbled with the clasp. We joked, just a little. It felt normal. Like something we should have had more of all along. Outside, guests began to arrive. I heard familiar voices, distant greetings, but I stayed in the room with her. Just a little longer, because today, I wasn't just the mother of the bride. I was the mother of 2 daughters, one walking beside me, one walking through me. When Sophie stepped outside, the sunlight hit her dress like it had been waiting just for her. It shimmered, not like something new, but like something redeemed. As she walked down the aisle, arm in arm with her father, I stood quietly at the back. I didn't reach for my phone, didn't fidget with my hands. I simply watched. And with every step she took, it was as if my heart beat a little stronger, a little freer. Each step felt like a thread being mended, a bond being rewoven, a goodbye turning into a welcome. And when she passed by me, I didn't cry. I just placed my hand on my heart, where Emily lives, and I whispered, so softly, so only the 2 of them could hear. Both of you are happy now, aren't you? And in that sacred moment, I swear I heard an answer, not with my ears, but with something deeper. A sense, a knowing. Yes, they were. Sometimes we hold on to something, not because we truly need it, but because we're terrified of what letting go might mean. A dress, a photo, a voicemail we haven't deleted in years, a name we whisper to ourselves when no one else is around. We cling to these things because they feel like proof. Proof that it happened, proof that it mattered, proof that we once loved and were loved back. But here's the truth no one tells you. Love doesn't live in closets. It doesn't live in dust-covered boxes or unopened drawers. Love doesn't need to be preserved. It needs to be practiced. Because the real power of love, the kind that heals, that lasts, doesn't come from locking it away. It comes from choosing to pass it on. In moments when it would be easier to stay silent, we speak. When it would be easier to guard ourselves, we reach out. When it would be easier to protect the past, we open the door to the future. That wedding dress? It wasn't just a dress. It was a bridge between memory and movement, between grief and grace, between one daughter who was lost and one who refused to give up on being found. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not forgetting, not moving on, but moving forward with love in our hands, not just in our hearts. So if you're holding on to something today, ask yourself, is this keeping me close to love? Or is it keeping me from it? Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is give away what we thought we couldn't live without and watch it bring someone else to life. That's not the end of love. That's how love begins again.